Module 12, Respect Your Body, Part 2. So this work on body image has been covered off over a couple of trainings, and last week you had the opportunity to just start to think about your own body image, and I gave you some pointers around how to start moving away from a negative body image to having more respect for your body, things like throwing away the scales and wearing clothes that fit you. And for some of you, you might be further along that journey and be in a position to be able to do some of those things. But if you're not, that's okay. It's just about, starting to think about the way in which we are reinforcing our negative body image is a really good place to start. And sometimes it just takes a bit of time to mull around with those thoughts before you're ready to actually start to take some serious action around getting rid of some of these things that actually we think are protecting us and keeping us safe in some way, especially the scales. The scales can feel like a measure of protection, a way in which by getting on them every day or once a week, it kind of feels like a sense of safety and control. So sometimes relinquishing that safety can be really hard to do. So the purpose of all these modules really is just to get you thinking a little bit differently, and as you continue with this work, eventually you'll get to the point where that feels more comfortable to do that. So we also started to look at body bashing last week, and how your body concept has been formed from birth. There's so many things that influence the way we see our bodies, and last week you had a chance to have a look at that. And also I shared with you a technique to help you start interrupting that negative self-talk about your body. Again, these techniques take time to practice. You need to really hone in and become aware of when that negative body talk is there to then be able to interrupt those patterns. So as with all of this work, change takes time, and it takes you making the time to notice the thoughts that you're having and be able to interrupt them and change them. So in this week, module 12, we are going to look more at negative body talk. This is a biggie, and there'll be some really you will recognize the obvious ways in which you talk about your body in a negative way, but also there's some really subtle ways as well that you may not be quite so aware of. If you start to think about the conversations that we engage in around weight and body, I not so much now. Of course, I work in this field, so sometimes I do, but I remember when I was at work, the conversations about body and weight and weighing clubs and stuff like that was like most days the main topic of conversation. So we are constantly engaging in body confirming conversations. We're constantly focusing on our bodies from a physical perspective, and this reinforces our poor body image. So I'm going to get you starting to think about, when people are talking about weight or body, do you engage in those conversations? Do you initiate them? Do you try to avoid them? Do you change the subject? So we're going to kind of spend a little bit of time talking about that. There's also an opportunity for you to do a formal assessment on positive body image, and it's just a benchmark. It's an idea where you can kind of go through the questions and answer them. So it's a really nice way of being able to kind of benchmark where you are at the moment in terms of your positive body image. So always nice to do these things, not to judge or beat yourself up about them, to kind of just think about it and think about just how hard you are on yourselves, because quite often the way we talk to ourselves is just so familiar to us that we don't realise the impact that it's having on a day-to-day basis. So you're also going to have a look at appearance assumptions. So an opportunity to start to look at what assumptions you are making about your body. And again, these are often assumptions that you've made years ago that just are stuck with you, and that you're making those assumptions with very little evidence that actually supports that they're true. We're also going to have a look at the assumptions or the predictions that you are making about what other people might be thinking about your bodies, because the assumptions you make about yourself and the predictions that you make about other people will have a big impact on the way you talk about your body. So really important work this. We're also going to have a look at avoidance and safety behaviours. You know, when we are carrying extra weight or we see our bodies in a certain light, it can lead to us withdrawing from doing certain things, and that has a big impact. You know, if we stop socialising, or if we stop engaging in getting dressed and making ourselves look nice, these all are reinforcing behaviours that reinforce our poor body image. So really important to start exploring this. And then I'm going to teach you something called the 3-step technique, which again is an interruption technique. 3 steps. First step is evaluate, and this is what we're doing in this module, evaluating the different ways in which you reinforce your poor body image and the way you engage in negative body talk. So the first step is evaluation. The second step is about new behavioural goals. So once you've identified the behaviour that you want to change, you look at other ways in which you can behave instead. And then the third step is to test it out. You know, it's all very well thinking about alternative things that you can do, but without testing them, you know, it's a bit like reading a book and getting the whole idea, but unless you put things into practice, nothing is going to change. So this module is the second part of like the overall body image work that I want us to do, and it's going to really focus on negative self-talk. It's going to focus on how the assumptions you make about yourself, but also the predictions that you think, how you think other people see your bodies and the impact of that. So really, really nice module to get engaged in, guys. As always, do come and share your thoughts and comments, and any questions, do reach out.